Ready to unlock some secrets? Today we're on a deep dive into energy and machines. We'll be referencing diagrams, slides, even some formulas. But don't worry, this isn't about cracking open dusty textbooks.
It's more about understanding those invisible forces that make our world, well, work. The things we experience every day.
And we experience them constantly. So let's pull back the curtain. What exactly is energy?
You know, it's funny. Energy is something we all rely on every second of every day, but defining it simply, that can be surprisingly tricky.
Because it's almost too fundamental, like trying to describe what air is.
Exactly. But in the simplest terms, I guess you could say energy is the capacity to do work, to make things happen. It's the driving force behind every movement, every change in temperature, every transformation in the universe, really.
The universal fuel powering absolutely everything, and it's not all the same, right?
You got it. Energy isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It's more like, imagine a cosmic toolbox.
And each tool in the box is a different type of energy.
Exactly. You've got your mechanical energy that's all about motion and the potential for motion. Picture a roller coaster, climbing that first hill,
That agonizingly slow ascent, click, clack, click, clack.
building up all that potential energy. And
The
then
plunge. Pure exhilaration.
pure kinetic energy. The faster you go, the more kinetic energy you have. And that's where the formulas come in. It's all connected to Ke equals 12 milliV squared.
I always loved that equation.
It's not just some abstract thing either. It has real-world implications. Think about it. If you double a car's speed, its kinetic energy doesn't just double, it quadruples.
So that feeling at the top of the drop, that's potential energy. And then as you go down, it transforms into kinetic.
Precisely. It's a constant dance between potential and kinetic. But those are just two tools in our energy toolbox. Then you've got thermal energy, the energy of heat.
The energy of atoms and molecules in constant motion.
That's it. The faster they jiggle and jive, the hotter something gets. Feel the warmth coming off that lamp. That's thermal energy right there.
So we can literally feel thermal energy. I like it. What about the energy we can't feel?
Ah, good point. Some energy is more about the very fabric of matter itself. Take chemical energy, for example. It's locked away in the bonds that hold atoms and molecules together, the glue of the universe.
So the energy stored in a battery or the fuel we use to power our cars, that's all chemical.
Pure chemical potential energy, just waiting to be unleashed and transformed.
Okay, so we've got energy making things move, energy creating heat, energy stored in the very things around us. But we're forgetting a pretty important one.
The energy that travels in waves, you're talking about electromagnetic energy, right?
Bingo. Light, radio waves, even the X-rays we use in medicine.
Exactly. It's how we experience the world around us, from the colors we see to the music we hear on the radio. It's everywhere.
It's mind-boggling when you think about all these forms of energy constantly interacting and shaping our universe. It's like a never-ending dance.
And speaking of powerful forces, don't forget about nuclear energy. That's the energy packed away inside the nucleus of an atom.
That's the heavy hitter, right? It's
Yeah.
what fuels the sun.
It's the powerhouse of the universe. And it's also the source of power for nuclear energy plants, which, as we know, come with their own set of challenges and benefits.
Definitely a topic for another deep dive. But we've got all these different types of energy, and they're not just static, are they?
Absolutely not. One of the most fundamental laws in physics is the law of conservation of energy.
Which says that energy can't be created or destroyed.
You got it. It can only be transformed from one form to another. Think back to that roller coaster example.
Oh, I love that example.
As you climb that hill, all that clacking and chugging, that mechanical energy from the motor, is being transformed into potential energy. You reach the peak, and for that brief, glorious moment, you're suspended in a state of pure potential. Then you plunge, and it all transforms into kinetic energy.
It's like a beautiful, energetic ballet. And that same principle applies everywhere, right? Every time we turn on a light, start a car, even just digest our food.
You're witnessing energy transformation firsthand. Think about something as simple as flipping a light switch.
Go on.
Electrical energy surges through the wires, reaches the light bulb, and boom, it's converted into light that's electromagnetic energy. But if you feel an old-fashioned light bulb, it also gets hot, right?
Ah, good old thermal energy.
Exactly. So even in that one little action, you've got multiple energy transformations happening simultaneously.
It really is a mind-blowing concept.
Yeah.
But it also begs the question, is any energy conversion process perfectly efficient?
Now you're getting to the really interesting stuff. That's a question we'll explore in more depth when we talk about machines and system efficiency.
So energy is this constant dance, this incredible symphony of transformations.
Yeah.
But It's not all just roller coasters and light bulbs, right? We also use energy to do work.
You got it. And work, in the physics sense, has a very specific meaning.
It's not just about breaking a sweat.
Exactly. It's not about how much effort you put in, it's about whether or not you apply a force that actually moves an object over a distance.
So pushing that really heavy box across the room, that's work.
Work, because you've got force and displacement. But just leaning against it, even if you're straining every muscle?
No work. Even if it feels like work.
Exactly. Work equals force times distance. And whenever work is done, energy is involved. Always. Think about lifting that heavy box. You're using your muscles, right?
Burning calories.
And those calories are a measure of chemical energy. You're using that chemical energy to do the work of raising the box against gravity.
Giving it potential energy.
You got it. Energy is like the currency we use to do work. And just like with any currency, we're always looking for ways to get more bang for our buck.
Enter machines.
Machines are all about making work easier, helping us do more with less energy, whether they're changing the direction of force, increasing the magnitude of force, or even just transforming one type of motion into another. That's the magic of machines.
From the simplest tools to the most complex gadgets, they make our lives easier.
And you know what's fascinating? Most machines, no matter how complex they seem, can be broken down into just 6 basic types of simple machines.
6. Okay, so what are these simple machines, the building blocks of our mechanical world?
Well, let's start with the lever, probably the most intuitive one. A rigid bar that pivots around a fixed point. We call that point the fulcrum.
Like a seesaw.
Or think about using a crowbar to lift a heavy rock. The further out on the bar you push, the easier it is to lift that rock. You're increasing the lever arm, which means you're increasing the mechanical advantage.
I can actually lift this feeling.
Exactly. And then we have the pulley, which uses a grooved wheel and a rope to lift or lower heavy objects.
So like a well or
Or a flagpole. That's a fixed pulley. It's changing the direction of force, making it easier to raise or lower something. But then you have movable pulleys.
and that's where things get really interesting.
Exactly. Movable pulleys can actually increase your lifting power because the load is supported by 2 sections of rope instead of just one. Think of construction cranes, those massive things lifting tons of steel.
Pulleys. Okay, so levers and pulleys, got it. What about, have you ever noticed how much easier it is to push something up a ramp than it is to lift it straight up?
All the time. Ramps, they're a lifesaver.
Well, that ramp, my friend, is another simple machine in action. The inclined plane.
Of course.
By spreading the work out over a longer distance, you need less force to move the object vertically.
It's a classic trade-off, distance for force. And they're everywhere. Wheelchair ramps, gently sloping roads, even staircases. It's all about inclined planes.
So we've got levers for lifting, pulleys for changing direction, inclined planes for trading distance for effort. What else?
Well, I bet you used another simple machine this very morning without even realizing it.
Really? What, my coffee maker?
Even simpler, the screw.
A screw. I never would have thought of that as a machine. It's so small.
Believe it or not, a screw is just an inclined plane wrapped around a cylinder. As you rotate the screw, that inclined plane transforms your rotational motion into linear motion, driving the screw into the material.
Mind blown. So every time I tighten a screw, I'm basically using a spiraling inclined plane. That's wild. Okay, so what about doorknobs?
Another classic. That's a wheel and axle.
Of course. The bigger the wheel.
The greater the mechanical advantage. That's why it's so much easier to turn a doorknob than it would be to just twist that little spindle in the middle directly.
So we've got levers helping us lift, pulleys changing the direction of force, inclined planes letting us trade distance for effort, screws converting motion, wheels and axles giving us greater turning power. That leaves just one more, right? The wedge.
You saved the sharpest for last. It's essentially 2 inclined planes joined back to back, used to split or separate objects. Think of an axe splitting wood or a knife cutting through food.
Even the teeth on a saw. It's all wedges.
Exactly. They're everywhere once you start to notice them.
So we've got these 6 simple machines, these fundamental building blocks. But they don't always work in isolation, do they?
You're absolutely right. Things get really interesting when we start combining them, creating what we call complex machines.
And suddenly the possibilities are endless.
Exactly. Take a bicycle, for example. You've got wheels and axles, obviously, but also levers in the brakes and pedals. And then there's the gear system, which is like a whole system of pulleys amplifying your pedaling power.
It's like a symphony of simple machines all working together.
That's a great way to put it. Or think about something as simple as a pair of scissors.
Scissors.
Yeah. You're essentially holding two levers connected by a fulcrum. And then, of course, you've got those wedges at the end designed to separate the material. Simple machines, but combined in such a clever way.
It really is incredible when you start to break down these everyday objects. But even with the most brilliant designs, we can't escape the laws of physics, can we? Earlier, we touched on the idea of system efficiency. What prevents machines from ever being perfectly efficient?
Ugh, the million-dollar question. And the answer is nothing is perfect. No machine, no matter how well designed, can ever achieve 100% efficiency. There are always going to be energy losses along the way.
Losses? What kind of
Well,
losses?
think about it. Energy can be lost as heat, sound, even just vibrations that dissipate into the environment. It's like trying to transfer water from one bucket to another.
You're going to spill a few drops along the way.
Exactly. You can get pretty close, but you'll never transfer every single drop. It's the same with machines. Take a car engine, for instance.
Okay, a car engine.
It's converting the chemical energy stored in gasoline into mechanical energy to turn the wheels, right? But a significant portion of that energy is lost as heat.
Which explains why my engine gets so hot after a long drive.
Exactly. In fact, only about 25% of the energy stored in gasoline actually gets converted into power that moves your car. The rest is lost, mostly as heat.
Wow, so even our most advanced machines are still pretty inefficient. Seems like there's a lot of room for improvement.
There's always room for improvement, and engineers and scientists are constantly working on ways to reduce those energy losses and make machines more efficient. A great example is the shift from traditional incandescent light bulbs to LEDs.
LEDs.
LEDs are far more efficient than those old incandescent bulbs. They convert a much higher percentage of the electrical energy into light, which means less is wasted as heat.
Makes sense. So it's about understanding these concepts, not just in theory, but also in how we can use them to design more sustainable and efficient technologies.
Exactly. Every improvement in efficiency means less waste, lower costs, and a smaller environmental footprint. And it all comes back to understanding these fundamental principles of energy and machines.
Well, this deep dive has certainly given me a lot to think about. We've journeyed from the mind-boggling power of nuclear energy to the everyday magic of simple machines.
It really is all connected. It's a constant interplay of energy and forces, constantly interacting, transforming, shaping our world. And the more we understand about these fundamental principles, the more we can appreciate the elegance and interconnectedness of it all.
So the next time you encounter a machine, whether it's a towering crane or a simple zipper, take a moment to think about those 6 simple machines. The levers, the pulleys, the inclined planes, all diligently working together, transferring energy, making the seemingly impossible possible. It's a testament to human ingenuity, and it all starts with understanding the elegant principles we've explored today.